Okay, guys, I'm going to give you a very deep explanation as to why we're not breathing program and technique is the holy breath of life in DNA with natural selection. With the natural selection. And you have to listen to me very carefully with the information I give you, the tools I put together, and with Jeremy McGriffith's The Book Freedom. The Book Freedom by Jeremy McGriffith is hailed to be the holy grail of life, and we're not breathing is hailed to be the holy breath of life. DNA is the book of life. DNA with genetic memory and ancestry tools is the book of life in your own DNA. Imagine every single one of you has a genetic process and a genetic memory to do every single thing that Christ can and more in that bloodline, in that DNA, by following the correct family tree. Just stop and think about that for a moment before you revise your perception and come to your own conclusion with reasoning inside your mind. The mind doesn't know what you're doing. It's outside the mind. The mind doesn't understand the process. The mind's oblivious and cannot understand. With the highest IQ people in the world, they can only use 15% of their brain. I can use 100% of my brain. And there's not many of us that can. There's only a few that can use 100% of their brain. There's only a few people that can master their mind and use absolutely 100% of their brain. Only a handful. That's fully recorded with evidence. Even CIA disclosure has made a disclosure about this. There's only a handful of people that can master their mind and use 100% of their brain. Those people are oppressed and suppressed the very most by the rest of the whole European and Western colonization and every artificial person in the world that cannot think straight. If they can't use 100% of their brain, they can't use their spirituality neither, because they have metals telepathy, ESP, remote viewing, telekinesis, levitation, spoon bending, clock winding, folding space and time with deja vu to predict the future and prevent what's going to happen. They create a sacred secretion with nanotechnology in their own biological system. They're a chemical warfare here, a war factory. Okay, you have the power inside your body cells enough to set up a nuclear war bomb. And you also have the chemicals and molecules, right, with genetic repair kits, right, like a chemical factory, 286,000 molecules and chemicals that you create in your own DNA. You'd be amazed what you can create in your own DNA with genetic memory and a genetic process in the 24th chromosome. That's in dormancy in cellular study research. You can see it in cellular study research, but it's in dormancy. 98.7% of the population, right, is living in the 23rd chromosome, and the 24th chromosome is in dormancy in every single one of them. So no matter what they do or say, they have 23 chromosomes. Only 1.3% can use the 24th chromosome. And their auras clockwise 24 hours a day without mental disorders and defects. They live in spirituality and not in mentality and a personality with amnesia, trapped in a reincarnation trap. The rest of the civilization is, no matter what they say, no matter what grammar they depend on. Their body cells can corrupt collusion during the daytime, can only be in 3.5 hours a night. In 98.7% of the population, right? They live inside their mentality in a personality with grammar. But they haven't got mental telepathy and ESP, remote viewing, telekinesis, levitation, spoon bending, clock winding, folding space and time with deja vu to predict the future, prevent what's going to happen with dimensional thinking and multiple layers and multiple perceptions. They live in narratives inside their mind, and they can only 7 to 10% of their brain in 99% of the population. And only 1% can use up to 15%. And only a handful can master their mind, use 100%. And they're the most authentic human beings in the world with the most authentic DNA and the biggest mental health research and DNA study ever done. So these people have not been deceived in any way, shape or form, and that's the obvious that people cannot fathom and cannot tolerate. But if you cannot use 100% of your brain, then you're not normal. And you can say what you like. But when you're trapped in your personality, in mentality, you don't know what you're doing, because you can use 100% of your brain, but not when you're living in your mind with IQ consciousness and mental event and mental process and illusion imagination with IQ, with voice and mind that tells you what to do all the time. That's ultimately designed from distinction, declared by Jeremy Griffiths, 16,000 top scholars in the world, and 45,000 teachers on the same page with the book Freedom, the cure of the human conditioning that's going to save humanity. The holy grail of life, where you can do what Christ can and more in your genetic process and your genetic memory when you cross over through the great transformation in DNA into a new era, a new timeline with sevenfold wisdom knowledge, and the vortex of information with the universal language you see in the movie Limitless. In the movie Limitless, you will see he takes a drug, right, developed called Bread Manna, that Christ has mostly used, that I developed in Australia, on every testing centre across Australia, in the Star Chamber Corps in 1999. That drug brought people back in their primal state with the most powerful enlightenment drug, truth serum, and love drug in the world. So it brought down the highest death time, cocaine, and violence and mesmerism in 30 years. Stopped gang killing and drug deaths and domestic violence to the lowest level in 30 years. Where kids did not get taken off the parents going home to get raped and bashed and become prisoners and prostitutes later. That's why the Royal Commission has been paying out for 23 years in Australia for this kind of behaviour. That's why they also apologised to the Stolen Declaration after killing them all in the 40s and the 50s with the bombs and stole their children, and paying out $250 billion today. And the biggest mental health research ever conducted in global history, and the biggest DNA study ever done. And they found my DNA in 2008, and I'm the first person in the world on record that brings the cure of the human condition into humanity in DNA studies done, the biggest mental health research. Number one, primordial being in the world that does things that no one else can do and cures the human condition that's going to save humanity with my DNA, the Book of Life. Which means I know how to cure every single thing you suffer from, and I'm the leader. And I've got the stones thrown at me the most by every Westerner in the world and every actor and character that lives inside their mind with self-centered ego, content thieves and credit thieves and liars across the whole world just want to make a name for themselves with their own opinions. And that's the only thing that every Westerner cares about, is themselves. Because they're deceiving everybody across the world. Every scholar and scientist and professor across the world only cares about themselves and their own opinions. That's how all their books are written. That's why all the medication is wrong, declared worldwide. Every one of their books and their science is a theory with artificial intelligence on reverse psychology engineering with wrong grammar. The wrong conclusion in every book and every movie and everything they do on social media platform. They're reverse psychology. They're not forward. They're anti-clockwise. Okay? When they can't use deja vu to predict the future and prevent what's going to happen with remote viewing, they cannot think clockwise. They cannot think with their spirituality. They cannot think with their brain. They can only think with a mind, with a voice of mind, where they believe in their own truth and come to their own conclusion with reasoning, which is inside their mind in a five-sense world, in a mental event, in a mental process, in illusion imagination set up by the Rockefellers into the conscious singularity by WF. Right? With the Rockefellers under the UN, with chaos for education, where their body cells can corrupt secretion during the daytime and can only be at night time, and they lose the sacred secretion and their abilities by the time they're 12. And their genetic memory and genetic process with 130 nucleoside molecules that does a genetic repair kit from 0 to 7 when they're perfect. And they can mastermind a computer game between 3 and 7 and have been outside influence on their reality with sevenfold wisdom and knowledge. But then they go to school to be mentally institutionalized with voices in their mind and become artificial human beings and thinking they're intelligent as a competitive person in a personality they developed. So they're not normal anymore. They come out like a robot out of school and discredit their parents like dinosaurs and become homotech transhumans with self-centered ego. And that's the whole world today. Self-centered ego. Trapped into themselves worldwide. They're not spirituality, they're mentality. And it's one of the hardest things to wake people up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap when they're trapping their mind that much into a personality, into their mentality. We can no longer change mankind from the way he thinks. Declared worldwide. In 1999, you declared in post-human stage, right? Post-human stage, and can no longer think instinctively outside the mind. And that's why they made the documentary, the movie, The Matrix, in the same year. Those who think instinctively tune our program. And people cannot think instinctively to master their mind and respond 7 times faster than people can think in their mind. That's why Bruce Lee can master his mind by 24, fight 12 people back karate blindfolded, and block every punch 7 times faster than anyone can think critically in their conscious mind with their 5 sense world. Because you use the third eye blindfolded, where you fold space and time in a time when stand still and light perception, you can respond 7 times faster than you can think with deja vu to predict the future blindfolded. And you have no comprehension. We can see on YouTube third-eyed children, superhumans, when they're perfect from 0 to 7. You can see on this video on YouTube that 8 years old, they can read, draw, and write blindfolded with their 6th sense. So they can do the same thing. By the time they're 12, they can predict the next car coming around the corner what color it is, which means they have deja vu and can prevent what's going to happen and predict the future. At 12 years old, when your phone rings, they can guess who it is on the other end, what they're wearing, with remote viewing, worldwide, with codependent feelings for the atmosphere that they were born with, spirituality in their 6th sense, where their natural process and their natural abilities to master their own mind and be a master of their own mind and use 100% of their brain, which is outside the mind. Christ told you that. That's why Winhoff stands at the Oxford University, as you can go and see on YouTube. He's standing at Oxford University with the latest scholars. And he says loud and clear, only Christ, and a few people knew this, to think instinctively through the 6th sense, 7th, 8th, 9th, 27 senses. And that's what he says, right? Because he's authentic. Him and Mastermind Shi Hing are the 2 biggest masterminds in Europe that can master their mind and use 100% of their brain with the most authentic DNA, 27 times more powerful immune system than anybody else in the world. And everybody else has lost their bacteria between 50 and 100%, which is their immune system. And these people here have a 27 times more powerful immune system than any vaccination or any other human being on earth. Think about that. 27 world records for supernatural, superhuman abilities. 17 Guinness Book of Records. I am the biggest mastermind on the biggest documents ever developed by the biggest think tank in the world that can do things no one else can do on 7 massive peer reports and 7 massive operations. I designed laboratory plans that no scientist thought of that took a 14-hour process down to 3.5. On surveillance, I could feel the truth when they put pen to paper in a courtroom when they were coming to raid me, and they found that out in direction microphones. I stamped an Indian number in such a way the X-ray machine 5 years later came out and couldn't detect it, and they didn't know how. I went on the mastermind reports from the age of 32 years old. I brought someone back to life with peer reports in Ipswich Hospital, Kirsty Ashley, 1992, under CCTV with seven people there, right, with 7 peer reports. They saw it. They got on CCTV. She writes the most powerful poem in 2003, the one and only, worldwide #1 for 8 months. They interviewed her when she was given 0% chance of living in Narcane and brought into hospital. When she flatlined the second time, she lifted 8 inches off the bed, one into the other. And they flew backwards on CCTV. They didn't know what was going on, but they pumped her stomach frantically as she took enough drugs to kill 50 people, and they gave her 0% chance of living. This didn't happen once or twice. It happened 3 times, and she lives to tell the story and to write the most powerful poem in 2003, the one and only. And in a study done, it's me who brought her back to life that had the divine power to command nature. And I didn't even know at the time. And it's astonishing. I'm on the front page of the paper as King Vice and 17 current affairs shows at the age of 34. It's the biggest mastermind, right? And king and mastermind of loopholes for laws and manipulation and become the most wanted because I unravel the truth with the most powerful truth serum on every testing center across Australia. That you can use 100% of your mind, 100% of your brain. You see that in the movie Limitless, a vortex of information where you can write a book overnight that's brilliant, go down to Wall Street to make millions of dollars, and they wouldn't want you to have that ability, would they? No, they'd rather have you trapped in your mind in a reincarnation trap where you do not know what you do. So you can only use 7 to 10% of your brain. That's the way they design you, and that's why you do not know what you do. So we woke people up from amnesia in the biggest Star Chamber inquiry held in 1999, where people are going back in the primal state. The most powerful truth serum, the most powerful love drug, okay? And I want you to think about that for a moment. The most high. The drug is only a mind manipulation drug. The drug that we use from a breed called manna, from a plant called maya, it's only a mind manipulation drug that activates your own primordial state, your own primordial ability. It takes you out of your mind. The drug is a mind manipulation drug that takes you out of your mind into different perceptions, into parallel worlds, into different ways of thinking, to see from the third eye from the outside in. The drug takes you out of your mind, so you're not in your mind. When it's made laboratorily correct, okay, when you take meth, it's like, whoa, and off you go. When it's made laboratorily correct with the correct barcode in you, in tune to the codependent power, right, with your biofields and your biosenses and your DNA, it activates your primordial state. It is mRNA technology. It's a conductor, and you're a conductor. You're a light. And the barcode goes into serotonin, and serotonin balances the pH out, and serotonin gives you the MDMA effect. The serotonin creates an MDMA effect, the sacred secretion, a meth effect, alert, alive, waking, aware, because MDMA is like opiates and meth put together. And you create opiates when you go into the holy bed of life, right? You start to go deep on the oxygen, deep breathing. And this deep breathing process correctly, on about the 11th breath, you start to create opiates, and you start to create the meth effect. You start to create DMT. You start to create MDMA, ecstasy feeling, high as a kite, high as a kite. You feel your body cells, you feel your aura coming alive inside you. When you do meditation like this, it's the most powerful meditation on earth. You won a Nobel Prize. It's been tested against every meditation in the world and every single thing you could imagine in the biggest DNA study ever done with Jeremy Givers with the World Transformation Movement in Australia. And the studies done down here in Australia is the most critical studies of them all, with Winnow Breathing and Jeremy Givers in the World Transformation Movement together. And most people are oblivious to this because it's being suppressed so much. But the biggest studies with Winnow was done in Australia with the World Transformation Movement, with DNA. The most powerful DNA studies ever done. And my DNA leads to research here, so I know more about this than anybody else. That's why the book Freedom is the absolute holy grail of life. I promise you, I'm the one that can judge it the most. I have the most authentic DNA, the most divine intervention, the most divine power to know how your genetic process works with longevity to create heaven and earth. Better than anyone. I'm number one primordial being across the planet in every single study done. Number one worldwide. I can do what Christ can and more, and I can teach people how to do what Christ can and more, because you can see that in the Star Chamber inquiry when 130 people arrested with godlike power. And in the underground world, when people go back in the primal state with a love drug, the most powerful love drug in the world, love frequencies. When you're in the love frequencies, ecstasy, high as a kite, you can't feel it anymore. So I'm going to introduce you to it in ways that nobody else in the world does. I'm going to introduce you to real love. I'm going to introduce you to being in your primordial state in the Christ image and have that kind of aura and that kind of power and that kind of high. But it takes time. You got to go through a transformation, a DNA transformation, right? A genetic transformation, because believe me, the body and the mental mind is not dealing with it too well. Right now, if you look at Laurie Ladd and many light workers, right, they're getting pins and needles, dizzy spells, insomnia, right, vertigo, concussion, fatigue. And fatigue is a big thing worldwide with mental disorders and DNA defects at the same time. People don't know what's going on worldwide. Mental disorders and DNA defects and cancers flying through the roof worldwide, okay, with the communication breakdown worldwide, and people adapting into these frequencies because the shamans changed all over the planet. Okay, fauna's collapsing between 38 and 9% nutrition value. Animals going around circles over the earth, birds falling out the sky, fish going around circles in the oceans, right? Hawaiian syndromes worldwide with peer reports. People losing their magnetic fields, their magnetic pulses, which means they're making an unnatural selection. It's a sixth mass extinction strip from the sixth sense for the sixth time. And that's going to affect everybody one way or the other with the human conditioning when they're living in their mind. And it's going to have a multiple reaction here. Okay, multiple decisions being made, pushing the wrong buttons, going into panic attacks, going into anxiety, going into stress, fear, and anxiety. And that's already happening worldwide, dramatically. And it's a placebo effect that's spreading like a virus and affecting people more and more every day. More and more every day. Most people are just living in a delusional state, living in a comfort zone in front of a screen all day, or only care about themselves making a screen or making videos all the time, right? Don't even know what's going on. Most of them are so delusional, they don't even know themselves. They're in their mind, and when they're living in their mind, they're not living in spirituality, into reality, where it's 10 times more powerful than the reality you're living in. Think about that for a moment. Just think about it for a moment. Those who cross over through the rebirth back in their primordial state will have the most high. The most high as a kite. So high, they don't know what they're missing out on, the rest of society, because they do not know what they're doing here. Okay? Once they break free from their vessel and their human experience, right, trapped inside their personality with mentality, and take control of the vessel from the outside in, then things changes dramatically. So dramatically, the mind doesn't know what's going on. The mind has got no idea at all. Waking up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap is a very, very powerful, serious process that's chilling and leaves shivers in your spine. And that's Jacob's ladder, the shivers in your spine. That's the tree of life coming alive in you. Your body cells, your aura, you feel pins and needles all over your body. And people can't adjust to it. That's why Laurie Ladd, every second or third video every day, she's talking about pins and needles and, oh, are you feeling the anxiety? We all go into the light in the tunnel. And she's not really coping too well. And I've been watching her on and off a little bit for 3 years. She went through the 212 phenomenon as well, right? She too went through the 212 phenomenon and set up a platform, right, to save people, but using the wrong tools and using the wrong grammar all the time and very confused about things, like most people really are, unaware of the correct tools and how to adapt into this, because it's not funny and it's not easy, right? And people don't understand how to stick their head through the light at the end of the tunnel, because they're still in the tunnel. And everybody's in the tunnel, heading for the light at the end of the tunnel. But that's something that happens when you normally die, right? That's what usually happens when you die. And that's the problem. But what if you do it now and you don't die? What if you do it now without dying? Because that's what we put you through. The death experience where your personality dies, where your mentality dies, and you go back in your primordial state, back in your innocent child, back in your selflessness, back in your primordial being, where you can take control of the vessel from the outside in, where you're high as a kite, where you're living in your sixth sense and upwards, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 27 senses. You're living outside the mind. You stuck your head through the light in the tunnel as Plato describes in 15 books. As Jeremy Gibbons describes in the World Transformation Movement. Sticking your head through the Lydian tunnel and going through the cave, going up the ladder. Jacob's ladder, going through the ladder through the cave. Sticking your head outside the cave. As Plato describes, it's 10 times more beautiful, 10 times more sun, 10 times greener grass. Like when you die and you cross over and people get sent back, they always say the same thing. They don't want to come back. They get a massive clarification and they feel the most powerful love, like soulmate relationships. And that's all they feel, love pouring all over them. The most powerful love they've ever felt in their life. And they feel like they're in ecstasy, high as a kite. The most high they've ever felt, the most powerful love they've ever felt, like a soulmate relationship, right? So beautiful, they never want to come back. Everybody worldwide says the same thing when they're sent back after being clinically dead. The same story worldwide, and their imagination runs wild as well. But these are the influence that everybody always talks about, no matter who they are, where they come from, and what walk of life they come from. That's one thing we know. To be in the Christ image, to do what Christ can, is to be in the Most High, where we create heaven and earth. It's a known fact. It's in the oldest Bible in the world. We create heaven and earth. There's no more heaven and hell after the 27th of September, 227. That's the inflection point of no return. And we create heaven and earth, and the rest goes into massive extinction, in a sixth mass extinction, stripped in the sixth sense for the sixth time. And there's nothing we can do to change that. We must be in our spirituality. We must be in our sixth sense, not in our mentality. Then we control the business from the outside in such a way that we have a weapon formed against us, formed in such a way that no weapon formed against it can prosper. Those who think instinctively tune out programs are saying the Matrix. Trust me, I know. We developed this back in 1994, we know. We found out then with a love drug, the same drug that Christ's emotion used, right, to cross over with. And people don't believe in it. It doesn't matter. We create the second secretion. That's what it's all about. The natural process. We're not breathing as the holy breath of life, because if you do the 40-day fast that Christ did, exactly the way Christ did, you isolate yourself, you take zinc, iron, magnesium, vitamin C, DB12, and salicylic salt. Drink lots of liquid. 40 days you stop your unnatural selection, the way that you're artificially designed with atheism design, right? With evolution mutation. You stop all your selections. You get off screens, you isolate yourself. Okay, you mind your own business and keep to yourself, and you don't get into judgmental and competitive behavior. You can do this at home anytime. You isolate as much as you can. Just do it as much as you can. Stay off screens and radio waves. Stay off screens. Only listen to audio. Do not watch any screens. Do not look at anything. Close your eyes as much as you can. Meditate with We're Not Breathing. Listen to the book Freedom by Jeremy Gibbons on audio, especially Essay 64. Listen to it carefully. It will have a massive inflection point that you relate to, that will make sense to you. And it will take you through every rabbit hole to stick your head through the light at the inner tunnel that Plato describes in 15 books. This is the holy grail of life. Trust me. I know. Okay? This comes from us, our most authentic DNA that knows how to cure the human condition, and we who can do what Christ can and more in our DNA, the last human beings found on earth that can do that. So we know, and I can confirm as a person with the experience that is the one and only one of a kind in the world, that Jeremy Gibbons explains this the way it needs to be explained, and the way the whole world needs to take it on board and indoctrinate themselves with real love and their natural process, with their natural human instincts to think instinctively and to think outside the mind, and to stop thinking mentally and stop thinking psychologically, because that's your worst enemy, your mind. And the voice in your mind ultimately decides extinction, because that's how it is. So when you go through this, you stop your unnatural selection and your thinking. In 40 days, you isolate. Don't eat. Stop your unnatural selection. That's what you go through. In 40 days, you go through an inflection point, maybe a few days later. But you'll get to a point where you push the adrenaline. You push the breathing as much as you can without hurting yourself. But you push the oxygen, because the oxygen is the holy breath of life that reactivates your Neuralink. We're only breathing 28 to 32% of the oxygen we're supposed to breathe. We're very dormant today. We are dormant. We are dormant. And if we don't believe in that, we won't know what we're doing. We are dormant. We only have 5% of our aura. We don't have any more than 1 to 5% of our feelings. We think too much. We don't feel anymore. We lost our feelings. Our feelings are tremendous. They're so far above anything you've ever felt. The most high you've ever felt. The best love you've ever made. The best drug effect you've ever made. This is higher than all of them put together. The most high, without any drug addictions, without any bad habits, without any light, power, frequency, or any of these tools. This is the most powerful confirmation on earth, where you feel it yourself. When you push the adrenochrome, you're oxidizing your blood, right, with the holy breath of life. You're oxidizing your blood. You're oxidizing your Neuralink. It comes alive. Jacob's ladder, the shiver in your spine, your body cells come alive. Not just on the outside, but the inside. Think about the quantum mechanic of a relationship. Think about a relationship. Think about loyalty, honor, respect, moral, inspiration, and encouragement, and nothing else. Just do it. You'll be amazed what it does. Think about being connected to all things in life. A universal connection to nature, water, sand, soil, because you are. You're connected to all things in life with a relationship. When you realize how much you're connected to this, you realize why the world's collapsing. Why fauna's collapsing? Because it's us. It's our mind that has the power to collapse nature. That's how powerful our minds are. That we collapse nature in the wrong vibration by being selfish in a 5 sense world, in conscious mentality. And that's not reality, because it's collapsing the world and collapsing our own bacteria and collapsing our immune system. And it's collapsing us in such a bad way. We have 600 to 7,000 defective genes in every one of us. We're deformed to the shithouse. We are so deformed, we're defected, have hereditary gene defects and personalities that live in our mind that we suffer from. We're carrying the burden of all those personalities in our ancestor tools. That's destroying us. That's what we're carrying. We're carrying that burden, right, from generation to generation without realizing it. And now we're going to reject it. Now we're going to go through a guilt process. In 40 days, we're going to go back to our childhood, back in our innocence. We're going to revise our perception about everything. And we're going to forgive and learn to forgive ourselves. We're going to face our bad demons in our mind. We're going to face every single thing going on in our head. And we'll realize that we're possessed by our own personalities. By these personalities, we're possessed. And we do the wrong thing all the time without realizing it. And we never take responsibility for action. We just turn a blind eye as if it's not going on. And we don't realize the little things every day that we do, that we give consent to, that makes us suffer all the time. We don't even know. We don't even know. We don't even know. We don't even know what the dominant effect is and what the ripple effect is and how it comes back like karma, like a boomerang effect and has our own DNA. We don't even know what we're doing. We don't even know what we're spreading in a virus that's affecting all of us and animals and fauna and everything in life. We don't even know the vibration we're spreading. It is a virus. It's a placebo effect anti-clockwise in our mentality, in our personality, in a delusional state, in a global delusional state that's causing this. And when we cross over, we create heaven and earth with 10 times more fruit and 10 times more nutritious value, 10 times more love, 10 times more feelings, 10 times more clarification. We create heaven and earth with the most high feeling you've ever had in your life. When you go through this 40-day process, you cross over, and I explain that every day. But for the next 3.5 years, you go through a transformation where things come to you out of the blue in ways you can't really explain because it's an outside influence on your reality with sevenfold wisdom knowledge that comes to you. And you start to use genetic memory and genetic processing go back all the time. And then you go in a time where time cell preserves at the same time. In your DNA and your aura, your body cells work together. you start to use natural selection because you follow your feelings and you don't follow your mind. You're always following your mind and come to your own conclusion, right, with reasoning. That's the way we're designed. When you go through this process, you start to go through natural selection. You don't follow your mind, you follow your feelings. You follow your feelings instead of following your mind. You don't choose what you like and what your mind likes, which is bad for you. You start to choose things that's good for you, not that you like, but that your body wants and that your body needs. What you really need to self-preservation mode for life. You start to act in such a way that you start to select authentic food, and the food you require that I teach here on many videos, you start to select naturally and not what you like. You don't select the way you did. All your selections changes, right? You go into natural selection and the mind doesn't know. The mind's got no fucking idea what's going on. And that's a process you're going through. For 3.5 years, you go through a transformation and you continue to breathe wind off and do it as many times as you can, especially in the 40 days. You go into meditating and you bring in deeper and deeper and deeper, and you bring it deep as you can. When you go through the 40-day test, you will get to a point where you get lifted right out of your vessel, right into the tunnel, to the light, and you'll see it and you'll feel it. The most compassionate love you ever felt in your life. The most powerful confirmation you ever had. And that's a crossover. And then you're saved from that moment because now you're in spirituality and you take control of your personality. So your personality and mentality doesn't control you. Now you control from the outside in instead of the inside out. And wow, it's a hell of a shiver in your spine. I can promise you that. It's not as easy as you think, but it has a powerful liberation. And you're alone and you realize you did not know what you were doing in your mind. And then you start to understand that nobody else around you knows any better neither, because they do not know what they do by their mind. And you discover that the first time, and the first time you discover what was controlling you and what made you suffer as you break free from it. Your voices in your mind become your worst enemy. And it's the first time you discover that. And you start to see it yourself. You start to feel it. And you feel the outside influence on your reality. You feel love pouring all over you. You feel high as a kite. And you go deep in meditation and go deeper and deeper in this moment. And you get to understand yourself. You get to feel the truth. You get to feel the ecstasy, the MDMA and the methadone. You get a clarification. You see what you've never saw before in your life. You feel something you've never felt before in your life. And you get the greater understanding that you've never had. You cross over into your spirituality, into your primordial being, back in your innocent, and you learn things with a vortex of information with an outside influence on your reality. The light bulb in you. The picture tells you 1,000 words cannot lie to you, like you see in the movie Limitless. Believe me, I know. And once you cross over and you go through a transformation for about 3.5 years, you will go through the psychedelic effect where you start to get high as a kite when you get a balance. When you get out of your mind and right into your spirituality, right in your primordial state, you'll go through a transformation that doesn't stop. It goes through massive inflection points and it continues. And it becomes the greatest path of your life and the greatest time to be alive. And you adapt into the highest high you've ever felt in your life. And if you can imagine ecstasy, 100% pure, absolutely perfect drug, high as a kite, that's how high you get. And you know when you get drunk, you haven't got balance to yourself. You know when you get too high, you fall over and on the nod. You activate yourself with the most power, the most love, and balance yourself in the most high. In the most high. And you're alert, alive, awake, and aware. And clarifications. And you can see the picture that tells you 1,000 words that can lie to you. You can see everything unravel. Nothing can deceive you. You have an aura, a shining armor, so powerful that it reflects everything else. You are in the light. You're in the aura. You're in the power, right? To create 10 times more fruit with 10 times more nutritional value. You bear the right fruit and it spreads like a virus. We spread that like a virus by using the correct tools and only the quantum mechanic of a relationship. Only loyalty, honor, respect, moral, inspiration, encouragement, righteousness. No other tools are required. Don't cause people to stumble. Help them get back on their feet. Help a sinner. Help people suffering. Don't be judgmental and competitive. Walk with the enemy. Work with the enemy. Love thy enemy. Understand they do not know what they do and they do not know any better because they don't. They literally do not know what they're doing. And they never will till they cross over. Because you're not alive until you cross over. You're a dead corpse and a dead walking zombie and a personality until you do. And you don't even know it until you do. You don't even know it. But you adapt into such a high, you get higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And it doesn't stop. You adapt into it. You go through a transformation. As Jeremy Griffith says, it might take decades. It took Moses, 40,000 Israelites, 3 generations, 40 years. 40 years. It took a lot of people, Abraham, Enoch, David, it took them all years to go into this, years. Christ did it in 40 days and a transformation for 3.5 years, and he's taught his disciples in 40 days and a transformation for 3.5 years, and they could do what he can and more. And you know, that's why they had to drain all their blood and cut them to pieces, because they knew how to resurrect. The great resurrection, I know how to resurrect. I teach the resurrection. How to resurrect your DNA, your biological genes, your biosphere, your biosenses, your abilities to do what Christ can and more, to go back in your primal state, to beat the death experience, and to never suffer from mental disorders and stress, fear and anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion and paranoia ever again, and never live in a comfort zone, but to be free. And the liberation is the Most High, where you create heaven and earth. And we're living it now, buddy. We're living it now, going through that transformation as well. And it doesn't stop. Imagine being perfect. Christ was perfect. He knew how to command nature. He had the divine power to command nature, right? And I'm nothing compared to Christ himself. I'm the son of Christ, son of David, son of Abraham, with genetic memory and a genetic process that you have access to as well. But I'm not Christ. I'm the son of Christ. And believe me, I'm the most advanced person in the world with the most powerful documents and DNA to back it up, more powerful than Christ himself. And that's the truth. That's the real truth. There's more documents to back me up than Christ himself. And that's fully recorded with evidence. Solid. And you can have faith in it. I can do what Christ can and more, and that's why I'm telling you. I protect the elect. We're not breathing program, the Holy Breath of Life. And the book Freedom by Jeremy Gibbs, the Holy Breath of Life, held by 16,000 top scholars and Nobel Prize printers in the world as the absolute Alpha Omega, that we can do what Christ can and more on the same page for the first time, and the biggest merge in human history. You can't get more elect than that. The Holy Book of Life, Freedom, DNA, the Book of Life, genetic memory, genetic process. You can do what Christ can and more. We're not breathing the Holy Breath of Life. That's all you require. And fasten for 40 days and go through this process. And believe me, you will learn. And you'll feel the truth. And you'll feel the love pouring all over you in ways you'd never felt before in your life, with the most powerful confirmation through the rebirth. I will cross you over. I will save you more than anybody else. Look at the testimonies from my followers. Listen to their own words. They've gone through this. I put people through this back in the 90s. Trust me. You can have faith in this more than anybody else in the world. We teach the real truth that breaks you free with a real liberation to be in the Christ image, and to be in the right image that you develop with in your own DNA, with your own genetic memory, and your own genetic memory that will come to you. When you go through this process, you will go through a transformation where things will come to you out of the blue. And trust me, it is the greatest experience in the life. It's the greatest time to be alive when you get it. Your mind doesn't know what it's doing. It's the oppressor. You become your own prisoner, your own warden in your mind. It's your own worst enemy. It plays tricks and games you. It's only your personality. When you break free from that, oh boy, you'll know. And trust me, this is exactly what you're looking for. This is the solution. This is the salvation plan. This is the great resurrection of humanity. And that's what it is, guys. You can have faith in that. We're not breathing is the absolute holy breath of life. And you can watch a lot of videos. If you go into the YouTube and put in there, right, Winov interviews and listen to all the interviews, you'd be amazed how much this can alter your DNA. DNA transformation, to go back in a primal state, to do what Christ can and more, with natural selection. And this is how we create the natural selection to take place. So it comes naturally and organically with your own natural abilities, with your own natural motor skills. And they're not working at the moment, but they'll come back. You go back to natural selection and they come back automatically. So you got to give it a chance, guys, because it's not what you think.